Welcome to Rational Science. What do we do in this channel? Well, we do science, or we try to do science, specifically physics. Now, why is it called rational? Well, because we're a little different than what everybody else does out there. You see everybody else out there follows not the scientific method, they follow the mathematical method. And the mathematical method has led to what we have today, irrational explanations for just about every invisible, intangible phenomenon. You know, light, gravity, magnetism. They can't see it, they can't explain it. Not in a rational way, not the mechanism. Okay, that's the issue, the causes. Okay, so here's a quick rundown of how we see science, how we see physics. We have a material interpretation of physics, unlike everybody else who moves concepts around, or abstractions, or they move particles which aren't particles. That's the issue. The particles these people use are really amounts that don't have a specific location, but they're talking about probabilities. Okay, so it's all abstractions. We use objects, we use things. And for that you had to start with the golden principle of physics. Physics requires an object. You can't do physics without an object. Okay, I mean, imagine there was nothing in the universe, no objects, no somethings, no things, no entities, whatever word you want to use in there, body, substance. Okay, if you have no body, no thing in front of you, what's happening? What are you observing? What experiment can you run, assuming you want to do experiments? What can you measure? There's nothing in front of you. You need a something to do physics. Physics is founded on somethings, on things, on objects, as we call them. So one of the first things we have to do is define the word object. Okay, and so that's what we do. Here it is. An object is that which has shape. And if the object wants to exist, it has to have, in addition, it has to have location. There has to be distance between that object and my chest, my ear, my nose. Okay, so if God wants to exist, he's got to have location, meaning he's got to have distance with respect to every object in the universe. And before that, he's got to be an object. So we have to define what an object is. The object is that which has shape. And what is existence? Well, it's object plus location. You have to have location in order to exist for the purposes of physics. Again, we reject ordinary speech, which is what people usually bring into science. What do we propose? We propose not only definitions that we can use consistently, rationally, scientifically, right? We propose the rope hypothesis. Light is neither a series of particles, flow of particles, or a transverse wave, which is what they use today. So it's none of these two. If you use any of those two, you're going to end up with irrational explanations. Why are these two irrational? First of all, because they're one way. Second, they're one-way mechanism. They only travel one way. And light is a two-way mechanism. And the other issue here is that the wave, at least at the top, is a concept. There is no physical standalone object called a wave. Wave is a verb. Wave is something that happens, not something. And on the bottom you see the particles, but how do you get those particles to wave up and down? That's the issue, because we know or have the experience or have certified or the issue is out there that light is some kind of wave phenomena. In other words, light behaves as waves, and you can't do that with particles. If you move them up and down, you got to tell the crowd why the particle is moving up, why the particle is moving down. Okay, so again, they end up with irrational explanations because they insist on this particle hypothesis, the so-called photon. What is a photon? A discrete particle. And is it the classical particle? No, they say, well, it's a quantum particle. And a quantum particle means it's a magical particle. That's what they mean by that. They cannot explain anything with real, dust particles. Like you say, what is a particle? Well, you think of a speck of dust. That's not what quantum means by particle. Particle means amount. Means not a thing, but a concept, a mathematical concept that has location. No, that can be put into a probability scheme. That's what we have today. So we have mathematics and no physical interpretations for mechanisms, invisible mechanisms specifically. We also propose that humans are on their last leg. We're about to become extinct as humans. We are the last humans on Earth. Nothing to celebrate. Not a very popular theory, obviously. And what do we propose for that? We propose that the mechanism of a mass extinction, which is what's going to happen to man, is the overturning of the ecological pyramid. That comes at the heels of plants overturning. Okay, so the plants, which is the primary production, they overturn their population pyramid. They lose their genetic diversity, and it's an economic collapse. What we have done is we kind of accelerated the process by domesticating plants. And what we do is we grow plants ourselves. We are the ones who produce the food on the planet. Why do we do so? We do it because we love humans, because we do it for the health of our fellow man? No, we do it because of money. We do it because of profits. That's the only reason all these major corporations produce food. And the day that our economy collapses, well, that's the end of food. And the argument is that our economy, our global economy, is about to collapse. It's not, as far as I'm concerned, it's not too far away. Okay, it's coming to a theater near you very soon. Okay, so what are the differences between what we have today in physics and what we propose? Well, here it is, a summary. Last 10,000 years, everybody has proposed discrete particles. And of course, they end up with irrational explanations. What do we propose instead? We propose that all atoms in the universe are physically interconnected. That is, physically interconnected. What interconnects them? What we call the electromagnetic rope. Essentially, it's a pair of twined threads, and that pair of twined threads comes from this notion that there is only a single closed loop thread in all of space. That's all there is. And this single thread is what twines around itself and eventually produces all the matter that exists out there. And it also produces the interconnecting ropes, which you see there at the bottom left. The atoms are doing their quantum jump. They're connected to each other through this physical rope. And by doing the quantum jump, they torque the rope. Signal goes in both directions simultaneously, in opposite directions. And that's why you can see me and I can see you simultaneously. Every atom in your eye is connected to every atom in my eye. And what we have is torsions of that rope. And those are the ones that give us that little bump to our atom, which later on transmits it throughout, to the seeing mechanism that you have in your head, right? So that is in a nutshell what we're proposing. And let me get back in here. Okay, that is the mechanism or the general picture. What can we explain with this? Well, here you have a little quick chart. Okay, it tells you all the invisible, intangible stuff, phenomena we can explain out there. We can explain light because it's a torsion, not a transverse wave going one way, but a torsion that goes both ways, and that goes along a physical mediator, which is the rope, what we call the electromagnetic rope. It's made out of those two threads. Those threads also make up the atom. One thread goes through the center of the atom, the other one curves around, and it encapsulates what we call the proton star. Okay, so what you see there is the proton stars. Every rope in the universe converges upon our atom and forms our little atom. We can also explain electricity. It's the merged shells of all these atoms, really the molecules. They're all aligned. They spin in the same direction. And by doing so, they also swing around themselves, the threads, which are going to cause what we call magnetism. And it, as you would expect, it goes at 90 degrees to the electricity. And there you can see the quick mechanism. When the threads hit each other, they push each other away, and you have repulsion. And the magnet's on the bottom right. And when you turn the magnet around, you see what you see there. What you see is that when they go in the same direction, they pull on each other. Okay, one group of threads comes down, the other one comes up, and they're pulling on each other. Okay, so that's in general, very quickly, the summary for how we explain these phenomena. We explain it with physical objects, not with abstract concepts such as energy and force and mass, charge, field, that time that mathematical physics uses as so-called explanations. Okay? And we can also explain gravity, something at least quantum cannot explain. And general relativity explains with the most ridiculous thing that you can imagine, which is warp time. How do you warp time when it's a concept? And they say, well, see, that's just the mathematical description. Yeah, but we have to explain why the Earth doesn't fly out of the solar system. These people are saying there's a wall of warp time, and the Earth is rolling around this wall of warp time caused by the weight of the sun, right? Causes this depression in space time. And so time is warped, and it's time which is preventing the Earth from flying out of the solar system. So that is the physical interpretation that general relativity gives. And it's a totally irrational nonsense, poppycock, surrealistic, not even surreal. You cannot even imagine such a garbage. And so, no, it has no place in science, what general relativity proposes. That's mathematical gibberish. We need a physical interpretation for why the Earth doesn't fly out of the solar system. Okay, so what is it that we have to explain? Well, here we have Berkeley professor. If you want authority, here you have it. Berkeley professor Richard Miller, he tells you what we have to explain. This is what we have to explain. We have to explain, for example, if you have the Earth, there's this big mass here. That's that big circle there with a big M in it. And you have you with your little mass here, and that's you on top of the Earth, right? Every atom on Earth is pulling on every atom of you. You're also pulling on it. The amazing thing about gravity is that it goes right through things. So we have to explain pull. We have to explain how it is that every atom on Earth is pulling on every atom of you. The only way we can explain that if they're connected, physically connected. Otherwise, you're doing black magic. You're putting spirits in that same space. Okay, that's the issue. And so here we explain it very quickly with a quick picture that synthesizes it. All atoms are in the universe are interconnected. The closer two objects are to each other, the more the ropes fan out. That's the bottom right there, the cylinder very close to the cube. And then when they're very far apart, which you see on the upper right, then the ropes form a single coaxial and gravity is weak. So the closer you get, the more the ropes fan out. And that explains Newton's equation, which is not an equation of force. It's an equation of tension, of weight. Weight is a tension at different locations. Weight is a static concept, okay? And so here you get an idea of what weight really is, what that so-called force, meaning tension, is at different locations. If the astronaut weighs only 25 pounds, it's because he's very far away. As you get closer, the ropes fan out. You can see the angles of the ropes changing as we go from 25, 50, 75, and 200 pounds. And that's why you are accelerated towards the Earth, because the ropes are fanning out every atom in your body connected to every atom on Earth. And what's happening, each one is not pulling, but I'm going to use the word pull. They are at different angles as you approach the Earth. That is the acceleration of gravity. Okay. Again, I try to emphasize that there is no pull. What you have is tension for every single rope at different locations, and at the next location, closer to, in this case, astronaut to the Earth, now you have more ropes, which were before on the same axis. Now they're on different axes. That's what it is, okay? I hope you understand that. Otherwise, you can review the pictures. You can also look at the book, free book, downloadable book that is in the description, and you'll get the rope hypothesis, and you'll get a better information. This is the dynamic version here. That's what's happening to the astronaut. The ropes are fanning out, okay, as he falls to Earth. Okay, and that applies to anything. A spoon falling to the floor has the same effect. As it falls closer to the center of the Earth, the ropes fan out. Okay, so that's what we propose in a nutshell. Okay, that's what this channel is primarily about. And what are the objections we have against the establishment? Well, here's one of them. Just give you an example. Here's electricity according to the establishment. They think that electron beads, electrons, they flow from atom to atom. What they've done is they've gotten rid of the atom as well, and now they just have the flow of beads. They do electricity just with beads, okay? And so you say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong is this. They cannot explain this. Why the electron stays faithful to the atom before it starts flowing from atom to atom. What keeps that electron bound to the nucleus? That's the question. One of the questions. The other one, I mean, you got all kinds of questions right in that picture. And that is that, the proton is supposedly a sphere, but it's made of 3 spheres, 3 quarks. Now, I challenge anyone on planet Earth to make a sphere just taking 3 tennis balls. See if you can produce a sphere. So those are some of the issues. The issue is that you cannot explain especially why that electron stays faithful to the proton, to that nucleus. And to summarize, all you have to do is explain what the white stuff inside those circles are. We need to know what that white stuff is. What physical entity occupies that space? And if you can't explain that, you don't have a model, and you can't even start your presentation. And that's where mathematical physics is today. Okay. Okay. Last couple lectures, I talked about 2 things. The first one was extinction, and the second one was existence. And we have a fellow who who researches or looks at or is interested in these subjects as well. He's incorporated information into the picture. Okay, so here he is. Let's present him. This fellow's name is Vogt. If I can get him up here. Okay, that's the gentleman here. He wrote a couple books. Multidimensional Reality. And the other one, God's Day of Judgment. He's got some other books as well. These, I guess, are his most prominent books. And I've underlined the word dimension and the word God. You see where this fellow might be coming from. Okay, word dimension I'm a little worried about, because when they say multi-dimension, meaning many dimensions, there's only 3 dimensions in physics. Now, in religion, you can have multi-dimensions. You have the religion of string theory. They have up to 26 dimensions some of them came up with. Today, I think they settled around 10 or 11, depending on what group you talk to. Okay, and so, yeah, I doubt that this fellow here, Vogt, he knows what a dimension is. He's probably using the dimensions of mathematics. Okay, and we've covered that in the past. Here's a summary again. You got the dimensions, coordinates, and vectors of physics. And there's only 3 of each. And why is there only 3 of each? Well, you can only have 3 90-degree directions. Okay, you can have length, width, and height, and each one is 90 degrees to another. There's no way you can imagine a 4th perpendicular direction to those 3 directions. And so what happened is they say, well, it's unimaginable. Yeah, no kidding. You cannot imagine. But the real reason is that mathematical physics doesn't deal with dimensions, coordinates, or vectors at all. They use number lines, and they call those number lines dimensions. And so this is where the problem is. They use the language of physics and they apply it to math, and people think they're talking physics. That's where the problem starts. And this fellow, Doug Vogt, apparently is in the same boat. Okay, he's talking about multidimensional. That's already scary because it means he's going to be using the notion of mathemagics. Okay, and the other problem is he introduces God, and that is scary. That is eye-opening, eye-rolling. Okay, rolling your eyes. The man, he says, this is his general picture, okay, what he's going to say. He says that by the year 2046, we might have extinction on our hands because of what he says in these books, okay? And I'm going to go over that in a minute, but here's kind of like the summary of, or his goal, or where he's headed with all this. It says the mass extinctions and the creation of new species, and that it occurs during the geomagnetic reversal. Okay, that's the subject matter that he likes to cover. It is not just one disaster. Okay, he's talking about what? Catastrophic accidents, right? And this one's going to have to do with the, not a supernova. He says the sun doesn't supernova. It kind of mini or micro novas, meaning it burps, so to speak. Okay, and that causes havoc on Earth every 12,000 or so years, and the next one's due in 2046. Okay, according to his calculations. So we're going to find out where he gets these ideas, these numbers, etc. Okay, it says one disaster that occurs at that time, but a series of events, each one contributing to the mass destruction, catastrophic accident, mass destruction. You know, stuff for Hollywood, right? It's got to be something that blows you away, right? That occurred in the past. Okay, so his mass destruction, catastrophic accident, that's what causes extinction. That's essentially his argument. Okay, he's just got a different one. It's not asteroid. It's not going to be volcanoes or anything like that. It's going to be a nova or a mini nova. Okay, micronova. The nova is bad enough, but what the oceans do is equally destructive. Okay, so we're going to have floods, I guess, right? The purpose of these videos is to forewarn people of the disaster so people can force government to make preparation to save some of the people. You cannot do this on your own. So he's going to say that in the year 2046, apparently, right, there's going to be this nova, this mini nova or whatever, and I guess we're going to have to run around the planet so they're always on the opposite side of where the sun is hitting the earth. So we're all going to have to move, I guess, to the other side of the planet and roll around with the planet as it spins. So we're going to spin around so that we always stay in the same place. We go in the opposite direction of the earth. The earth goes this way and we go that way, right? So we always end up in the same place, and the sun can bombard our oceans or whatever from one side. I guess it's something like that he plans to survive somehow like that, or maybe protect ourselves with umbrellas of some kind. I don't know. You know, I didn't research that because, as you will see, it was not worth my time. We've got enough of what we got on hand here today. Okay, so Mr. Vogt has created a foundation. He calls it the Diehold Foundation. I'd rather refer to it as the Die-Hard Foundation because he's a die-hard quantum mechanic, a die-hard relativist, a die-hard string theorist. He's a die-hard mathematical physicist. In other words, he's bought into mathematical physics, and that's what he uses as his foundation for his theory. Okay, So he created this Diehold Foundation in 1987, and its purpose is to accomplish 4 major goals. The first one is to gather information. He wants to fund geological expeditions in order to gather information on the past climate and biomass of selected regions of the Earth. The period of interest is from 10,000 before the present to 120,000 before the present. In other words, he's going to look at this period, okay? Essentially the Upper Paleolithic, when he thinks that maybe there was some climate change going on and that maybe caused the extinction of some species, and it was triggered in turn by this thing that he calls the nova. Okay, we believe we can determine what side of the Earth will be facing the sun when it novas during the next geomagnetic reversal, polar reversal. Okay. Second reason is to research gravitational anomalies found in the U.S. and the world as defined by whom? By Douglas Vogt. Okay. Research will include testing and data collection. Testing and data collection. That sounds like mathematical method. The mathematical method, not the scientific method. We don't do tests. We don't do data collection. Why? Because all those, the only purpose is that is to collect evidence. What is the purpose of evidence? To persuade and convince people to prove a theory. In science, we don't do any of that. In science, we just explain a mechanism so that people understand. And this fellow is, again, he's in the mathematical world because all he wants to do is test, collect data. Why? What for? To persuade you. That's his intention. We believe these gravitational anomalies are the result of very highly advanced technology by a previous civilization. Oh my God. We have these people who believe that in the past our ancestors had more information than we did. They had more knowledge, and we lost that knowledge somehow over time. Maybe the Klingons came over, visited us, gave all this information to them, and then they squandered it away, or time erased it, or who knows what. Okay, so a lot of these people, you see that in the electric universe as well. You know, they talk about all these, aliens. Not necessarily aliens, but the fact that our ancestors knew a lot more than we do. Okay. The third reason is to fund research covering the causes of past ice ages. Again, causes, he doesn't need to do any research or anything like that. All he's got to do is explain the mechanism. Then we'll understand the causes. Ice ages, geomagnetic reversals, mass extinctions. Again, he thinks a mass extinction is catastrophic, caused by catastrophic agents. Mother Nature throws, asteroids or does supernovas or maybe volcanic activity. That's how they visualize this stuff. And other phenomena related to the polar reversals. Okay? The objective of the research is to find a causal relationship between geological cycles and astronomical cycles within an informational theory of existence, such as the theory of multidimensional reality. What the hell is this theory about? Here it is. You get a little breakdown here, a little synthesis, what he's talking about. He says, the theory of multidimensional reality is the world's first purely information theory of existence. Of course, he never defined the word exist, so we don't know what he's talking about when he says existence. You won't find it anywhere. He just takes the notion of ordinary speech, which all we have are synonyms. We don't have a definition, scientific definition. So we don't know what he's going to talk about, but he says, it states that matter is not the dominant thing in our universe. Okay, but rather information creates our matter world. So matter comes from a concept. Turns out that concepts are all invented by man, Mother Nature, God, the devil, whoever you worship out there. They don't understand what this thingy you call information, this thingy we call concepts. They don't understand that. All they can see is the material stuff. Again, you can't do physics without objects. But this fellow says that all these objects came from a concept called information, and all concepts came from man. So it turns out the moon, which was here before us, was created by man, because we created out of our imagination. But maybe it wasn't man. Maybe it was someone else. So let's find out. Let's find out maybe there's someone else who did all this. The theory is able to explain the most difficult phenomena using the same philosophic framework. Okay? A physicist told dear Mr. Vogt, that he had discovered the philosophy that string theorists have been looking for. The theory does much more. It unites parts of quantum mechanics with parts of string theory. Now you see where he's going with all this. It does it by first assuming that the theory, it does it by first assuming that the universe is the product of information, and the information forms the matter world we live in. Okay, so you can see how this guy is, this poor chap is going in that direction. Okay. And so here we have number 4. It says the purpose of the foundation's research is to see if global warming. Now, where did he get that global warming? I guess from the news, because it's on the news every day for the last 50 years. So people are talking a lot about that. And so he's very concerned about that global warming. Global warming is probably going to cause the extinction of man, especially if the sun novas or whatever, right? So he's going to put all these together. Global warming is caused by a collapsing magnetic field on the Earth and the Sun, which will eventually culminate in a geomagnetic reversal, then an ice age on the Earth. Okay. Okay. So he's going to argue that we're going to have a reversal of the poles, polar reversal. Going to be caused by something happening to the magnetic field of the Earth. That in turn is going to be caused by something happening in the Sun, apparently some supernova or nova or mini nova or micronova or whatever. Okay, and so he wants to prepare for that because he's calculated it's going to happen in the year 2046. So if you live that long, hopefully I don't. I'm too old to live, I think, to 2046. I think I'm going to die much sooner than that, one way or the other, right? Either by natural causes or because we go into extinction. And so where does he get all this stuff? Let's see. He did some research maybe, or he got some funds for, I don't know, some deep thinking or something. Well, no, he gets it from a book. The Pentateuch, the Jewish book known as the Torah. Torah has like 2 definitions. One is the first 5 books, supposedly written by Moses, where Moses, tells us that he died. They call him the first 5 book of Moses. Moses dies in one of those books. Okay, that's one. The other one is that it extends all the way to Chronicles, which is when the Jews were deported to Babylonia, okay, or around the time of Cyrus the Great, maybe 550 BC or so. Okay, you may wonder why Science Foundation, Science Foundation, okay, whose goals are to study the causes of the ice ages, polar reversals, and develop an information theory of existence, would get involved in studying the Torah, Bible, Old Testament. Yeah, why would they? I mean, the reasons are what the founder, that man there, okay, discovered about the Hebrew alphabet. Okay, that the exact number of years between geomagnetic reversals were embedded as code in the surface story of the Torah. Aha. So we have some secret information, these holy books, maybe given to us by God for the chosen people. Who knows? I mean, let's find out. The second discovery was that the Hebrew alphabet and the Torah is the product of a very highly advanced previous civilization that had the same information theory of existence as the one we are developing, the theory of multidimensional reality. So he rediscovered the multidimensional theory of reality. And he got it from, I guess, from the Torah. He was able to read all these secret codes and messages that were embedded in there and that nobody else could. And so he rehashed this old theory that we stupid humans lost over the centuries. Time erased it. Okay, here is, he reinforces that, saying the reason why the book includes both religious as well as hard science subjects is because of what the author had discovered. The author is Mr. Vogt there, chap, okay? One of his most proud discoveries is to discover the model that created the original 22 Hebrew letters. Whoa. Normally you would not think this would be a major scientific discovery, but it was. The original Hebrew alphabet is 22 views of a waveform that is a modified square wave. You see it there on the right? I guess the Egyptians had good old Horus, touching his fingers there. Alpha views of a waveform that is modified square wave superimposed on a toroid. This model of a toroid is a model of how the carbon atom comes into existence as three-dimensional matter. Remember, he's talking about matter, he's talking about three-dimensionality, okay? So he's talking about, I guess, things that exist, okay? Every single letter is formed when the waveform crosses the x-axis. Okay, there you see the waveform. Probably screwed up. I should have made it cross the axis. Okay, but okay, minor detail. He can beat me up for that one, no problem. And so here it is, the toroidal. Okay, this is his view of it. I made my own drawing of it. Okay, it says the toroid shape represents how carbon atom comes into this dimension. Okay. That thingy there, I don't know how that has anything to do with anything, but okay, he's got this wave form. Again, he doesn't specify what the wave is made out of. What is the physical object that underlies the wave? That's what we would like to see. Like if you propose transverse wave, we say, well, what is waving? And you would have to say, well, particles are waving. Well, what kind of particles? Like classical corpuscles? No, they're amounts. They have location? No, it's a probabilistic theory. And that's how they fool you around with all this word wizardry. Okay, so let's continue here. And so we still have the scrolls there, the Torah scroll. Vogt shows that the Torah is actually some kind of computer program. Computer program, where could he get that computer program? Maybe from this day and age? I mean, I worked in the industry for many years. And we did chips, and so this started really growing quite fast after about 1980. The chip really developed very fast after that, right? Even a little before that, but 1980, I entered the industry in 1979, so I was quite familiar with the whole trend. Worked there for many years, and it says kind of computer program used to program a light-based computer. Whoa, okay. The publication of this book marks the first time anyone has scientifically proven the existence of God. Now, how's that for proof, for evidence? Here this man says he's proven the existence of God. All these years, atheists and theists and agnostics, they're fighting over nothing. They should have gone to this man. I mean, he's already proven the existence of God. Okay, and his relation, the good old man upstairs, the bearded guy, okay, his relationship to the universe, the author provides the groundwork to prove. Proof? Science is proof? Or religion is proof? Yeah, in religion we prove, we try to convert, we try to persuade in order to recruit people. Okay, that's what the pastor does on Sunday, Sunday school. To prove that there is some kind of intelligent design. Now, where did I read that? I'm sure I've heard that before. Fundamentalist churches, design, okay? Design process working in the universe, okay? There's some mysterious designer out there, okay? For any theory of existence to be correct? Correct? I thought correct is religion, opinion. What's correct to you is incorrect to your neighbor. Right? What's true to you, false to your neighbor, what's yes to you, no to your neighbor, and so on. Yeah, they use these words, correct, proof, evidence, data. All these people are doing the mathematical method, not the scientific method. They harp on persuasion, on conversion, on recruiting, on converting, you know. For any theory of existence to be correct, it must be able to answer the three most difficult questions in the universe. Whoa, three most difficult questions in the universe. Talking physics here, right? Why was the universe created? Created? Someone created the universe? I thought it was always around. How can you create something from nothing? Or worse, like he says, from a concept, from information. Of course, good old Stephen Hawking, he does it from energy. So you can't blame the guy. This guy does it with energy. This chap here, he does it with information. Another concept. If God created the universe, oh, okay, so it's not a guaranteed thing, it's an if, okay? Then who created God? Good question. Okay. And yeah, you can wait all year to figure out who created God, because then you got to figure out who created the who, who created God. So who was God's mother, you know, who created his mother and her mother and her mother and so on down the line. And what is man's purpose in the universe? His purpose is to become extinct. Now that settles that. Okay, that's the purpose of man. He's going to become extinct, and that'll be the end of man. We won't have to listen to any more of this nonsense if we become extinct. So sometimes I pray for extinction. Other times, you know, I'd like to live a little longer, my kids, my grandsons, but I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, so here's God with his computer, okay? So if you ever want to see, I saw him the other day. I went there and took a picture. So, hi, God. How you doing? Yeah, that's God running his computer. He's the guy who runs this universe. Information comes out of that big box there. Of course, this computer is a supercomputer. It handles every one of your thoughts, every person that's living on Earth and that has lived on Earth. We go with a block universe, it's every person since day one, and even all the way to Cambrian, I guess, right? All the animals. He governs everything. That computer there. There you have the block universe in there. We'll call it the block computer. Okay. Mr. Vogt chap has closing arguments where he kind of summarizes it. He says, why is the earth getting warmer? Because that's his main pet peeve. He says in the year 2046, that's it for all of us, or for most of us, unless government does something now, right? We got to influence government from now on. Scientists do not know why all ice ages are preceded with a geomagnetic polar reversal. Okay? We know there was a great mass extinction of species following the polar reversal in Ice Age, but we don't understand why the extinctions affect both plants and animals worldwide. Aha. The problem is the matter-oriented theory of existence. It's all these materialists like Bill Gates, you know, they're confusing people. Forget about matter. We do physics without matter. Our science is based on a matter-oriented theory of existence, which assumes that matter is the dominant driving force in the universe. Well, I don't know about driving force. I'm not sure you can do anything without matter. I mean, again, like I started my talk, if there's nothing in the universe, there's no matter, no atoms, what's happening? What's going on? Are we moving concepts around? Energy in that direction, information in the other direction. We lift the mass, we lower the charge, we stretch the time, compress the field. Are we going to do it with concepts? Concepts are invented by man. Mother Nature recognizes no concepts. She only understands objects. Okay? This fellow says that forget about matter. The only other alternative to explain the workings of the universe is an information theory of existence. You got to go back to information. Why? Because we're in the age of disinformation. This is part of the disinformation. This philosophy holds that information is the dominant force in the universe, and the matter world we live in is the product of information. The information derives from another time, space, time, dimension. Forget about Einstein's ridiculous four-dimensional universe. This fellow proposes a few more. I think he proposes up to 8 dimensions. And yeah, you can look him up and you'll find he's got a book or a synopsis of his book out there you can read. Okay, some people might say, oh no, first, let me go with this first. You know, he's putting his money where his mouth is. That's important to understand. He's proposing not a challenge, he's proposing a challAAAAnge, okay? And this is the challAAAnge, okay, that he's got on his website. And he's offering money, putting his money where his mouth is. He said, hey, you know, I'm offering money. Now, I don't know if you can read that. Let me put bigger and more concise version of what he's got there. That's your $1,200 challenge, or challAAAAnge, I'm sorry. The challenge is to anyone who can prove the author wrong. I love this. About what causes the ice age and polar reversal, geomagnetic reversal, and why they occur at the same time. Namely, the geomagnetic reversal happens first at the same time our sun novas. The challenger must have proof of purchase of my book. Okay? You must also come up with a unifying theory of existence that explains all the scientific phenomena listed on the science page. If you cannot do that, you have nothing. The existing matter-oriented theory of existence is wrong, and only an information theory of existence can explain it. The author is confident no one can succeed because over 100,000 scientists over the past 100 years have tried to come up with a theory that explains everything and have failed miserably. The reason is so obvious. The foundation philosophy of science is at fault. Well, there I agree. But he's got the same foundation, which is mathematical, the mathematical method. Namely, that matter is not the dominant force in the universe, information is. No, the fault is that he's following the wrong scientific method. He thinks science is about persuading, convincing, and offering money for a challenge, for someone to, a challenge so that someone can prove him wrong. And who's going to judge that? Well, it's going to be his organization, okay? The reason is so obvious. If the challenger is unable to prove an alternative theory within 3 months, he or she will make a $500 contribution to the Diehold Foundation. Now, how's that for a challAAAAnge? Okay. I love this guy. Made me laugh. Now, some people might say, Bill, why do you bother with these people? So here's my challAAAAnge. Okay, let me tell you why I bother with these poor souls. Okay, first they clog the internet. Okay, and so the question is whether they're allowed to speak. They should be allowed to speak. Well, everybody's got a right to speak and put anything they want on the internet, but what that causes is a lot of traffic, and everyone ends up, who wants to challenge who wants to challenge the establishment, becomes a needle in the haystack. And I'm one of those. I'm just a little needle in the haystack. I don't pride myself in having lots of followers. It's not important to me. What's important is that the few people who discover me by chance, well, at least they get another vision of how this universe works, and also what arguments to lift against the unscientific establishment, including this gentleman here. Second, because they mislead the public. People like him just mislead the public. Some people fall and they think that this guy is a scientist. I mean, if he wants to do something else like religion, there's a place and a time for that. Some people might say, well, Bill, what's the harm? I mean, the guy proposes something that is different, and it stimulates our minds, right? We have more ideas out there. Well, there's a time and a place for that. Like if he's going to do entertainment or he's going to do religion, if he wants to be a stand-up comedian, fine, go and do comedy. But don't, do false advertising and present this as science. there's a time and a place for that. And that comes a little bit with my parable of the Martian. Some of you know that parable, and I'll just regurgitate it for those who don't. Okay? The Martians decide to send their number one commander to Earth. Okay? And they give them instruction. Bring the most intelligent animal you can find down there. The most intelligent being that you can find there. Okay, so commander comes down and he lands with his flying saucer. He lands in a cemetery early in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning. And here's this lady come in with her dog. And the dog is not on a leash because, they're very early, there's nobody there. And the dog runs up ahead. He already knows where to go. He knows the tomb by heart. So he goes there, he goes to the tomb, lifts his right leg, takes a whiz, right? And he, with his hind legs, he kind of throws a little bit of dirt in there, just keeps running around the cemetery for a little while, chasing rabbits maybe. And the lady comes in, the little lady with a bouquet of flowers, puts the flowers in there, changes them in this vase, and she kneels, she prays, and then she kisses the tombstone right where the dog did his thing. Well, the Martian didn't think it twice. He took the dog back to Mars. Okay? And so this is more or less like, brings my memory, this fellow Prometheus. He was one of these gods of the Greeks. And he came out and he gave fire to man. But this time, no, we're going to modify it a little bit. Prometheus comes and gives, not fire. Fire's petty stuff. He gives intelligence to man. He lets man eat from the tree of knowledge. Okay? And so what happens? Zeus gets this guy, ties him up against the mountain, is going to have this eagle start eating his liver, forever for this crime that he's committed, giving intelligence to man. And Prometheus says, no, Zeus, you got it all wrong. You misunderstood. Okay, Promy, speak up. You got 10 seconds to make your case. So Prometheus says, look, I gave intelligence to man so that we could have the laugh of our lifetimes. What do you mean? He says, look, we gave intelligence to man, and what did they come up with? They came up with Big Bang, with space-time, warp space-time. They came up with black holes, dark matter. They came up with particles being at two places at once. They came up with so much nonsense. And it turns out that ants, which don't have the intelligence of man, starfish, even a bag of potatoes has more intelligence than man, that I gave intelligence to. And that's more or less what this chap Vogt is in. Here they gave him intelligence, or reasoning abilities, you could say, and he squandered this gift. He squandered it completely. He comes up with so much nonsense that's just unbelievable. And of course, the gods out there are laughing their heads off because, see, if he was doing stand-up comedy, then it wouldn't be so funny. And I say, okay, he's joking. But it turns out this guy is serious, and he really believes in this nonsense. So the gods are having a ball. They're busting their guts with this guy. And that's more or less where I can put Mr. Vogt. Okay, I don't think it tells us a lot about today, about what we see out there, what we hear out there. We have all these deranged, deluded individuals who post stuff on the internet, and again, what they do is they crowd out, the needle in the haystacks. He turns everybody into a needle in a haystack because there's so many people doing this nonsense. From the establishment, also so-called dissidents. So yeah, Mr. Vogt belongs to the dissident branch. So that is, in a nutshell, what Mr. Vogt is about. You can look up, I guess, his book and his stuff on the internet, easy to find. have fun with it. I hope you laugh as much as the gods are laughing. Okay, let's go to our question and answer. I got only a couple of issues that I'm going to raise today. There were a few more, but I'm just going to deal with a couple of them. Here's the first one. And this fellow says, if I understand you correctly, if two objects are connected, they are in reality one object. Would it mean that every atom in the universe connected by ropes with every other object is just one God atom? Well, no, I didn't say connected. You're confusing connected with touch. Touch is not connected. When I said that two objects form one, I was talking about touch, not connected. When two objects are connected by the rope, they are still two objects. In other words, two atoms are two separate objects, and we consider them object because separate object because we can't see the rope and we can't touch the rope. Okay, the rope is unseeable and untouchable, because an object is not that which you can touch or see. It is that which you can, which has shape. Okay, so let's get it right. We're talking about touch and not connectedness. The other issue is, would it mean that every atom in the universe connected by ropes with every other atom is just one God atom? That is an issue of mereology. You're talking about what you're treating all the matter in the universe, what we call universe essentially, because people forget about space. You're treating all that as a single object. You're saying, oh, what is it made out of? It's made of all these atoms. That's mereology. That's religion. That's not the definition of an object. An object is not that which is made of blah, 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 blah. No. An object is that which you point to, that has shape. Okay, that's what an object is. So when you talk about what an object is made out of, you're talking about mereology. Mereology is religion. Okay, we don't care what an object is. A table is not what it is made out of. Table is not a gazillion atoms. That's not a table. Table is what you point to, that thing, that shape, that image that you've got in front of you. Okay, and then another fellow puts another comment, and he says the following. He says, this could be of interest to you. Very soon the world could run out of food. This is how. And he points me to a site. And this fellow over there in that site, he talks about, the fact that we may run out of food for different reasons, environmental issues. So I got to put it in the right context, okay? And the extinction theory. And here's the challenge for you. I'll offer $1 million, not so that you debunk the theory, but so that you understand it. I just want people to understand the theory, not confuse what we've got out there. Extinction 101, human extinction, is not about, is not about global warming, environmental collapse, peak oil, Illuminati taking over the world and corralling us poor people, faulty economic policy. It's got nothing to do with that. What does Extinction 101 have to do with economic collapse? Let's get it right. Let's understand it. $1 million if you understand it, please. I don't want you to challenge it. I don't want you to believe it. I want you to understand it. Humans, economy can't grow forever. Yeah, our human economy, our artificial economy, global economy cannot grow forever and ever and ever. Part of the reason is because population doesn't grow forever. Since 1963, we have the curve going down. In other words, the birth rate is slowly going down. We were at 2.3, 1963. Today we're at like 1.0, and by the mid-century, if everything continues as it's going today, we're going to go zero population growth. That means we're reaching that asymptote, okay, where one person is born, one person dies, and global population remains more or less stable, okay? And of course, before we can get to that, we're going to have a problem with the economics, because if we're not producing consumers, population, well, then you don't have consumers. You're not consuming. The companies go out of business, they collapse, or they fire or lay off more and more people. We have more unemployment, and more unemployment means that government has to somehow support those people somehow, because they can't do it on their own. There's not enough room in society for them. And so eventually what happens is money becomes worthless because you have more and more production of money and less production itself. And we're creating a lot of unemployment. And again, we have unemployment already in services. Services is masked unemployment. Okay? So every time you hear someone going into services, you know that's nonsense. That's unemployment. Okay? It's just masked unemployment. Like the girls that go on YouTube, they show themselves. They don't even, it's prostitution without the or with the social distancing. You know, they can show everything they want. They collect their paycheck at the end of the month. What have we created? Is that necessary? Like we showed right now with the COVID thing, that we don't need hotels, we don't need restaurants, we don't need car rentals, we don't need air travel. We have substitutes for all those. That's what we showed with the COVID. That only accelerated the process that I've been talking about for 20 years now. Okay, so the human economy can't grow forever. It's being aided by population decline. In other words, we're not having kids anymore. We're not even getting married. Everyone who gets married gets divorced. So they don't have kids to begin with because, you know, then they have to cut the baby in half, you know, during their divorce proceedings. Okay. Then we had this big transition that's going on, which is transition to the cities. In advanced nations, it's already happened pretty much for the most part, but it's all the underdeveloped nations, we can call them underdeveloped, that are now in that process of moving people to the cities. The land is being bought by agricultural corporations, which produces food, or produce food for the people in the cities. What do people in the cities do? Well, they do services because there is no work. And then that leads to a collapse in money. Trade is no more. You will not trade because money will be no more. And people don't trade if there is no value on the other side. People say, well, you know, I can trade without money. That is money that you're trading, just a different form of money. Okay, so we used to have different forms of money. We were paid with food. When we went into commercial, until, you know, before that, when we were in subsistence agriculture, we needed no money. But when we went into commercial agriculture, then we began with trading, and whatever you gave, that was money. So we had different kinds of money. We had food, we had gold, we had paper money that was invented later on. Then we went into electronic money that we have today, and that's as abstract as it gets. And our food supply depends on those e-money, the e-dollars or whatever. Okay, with that, we'll see you, what is it, on Sunday, and we'll continue with rational science. Bye-bye.